Hello, everyone. Welcome to PD in Your PJs. We are going to get started right away. If you haven't joined us before, just a reminder that you will hear us talking and you can reconnect if your audio ever gets a little messed up. After this webinar, you will get the recording and the slides emailed to you because you registered for the session. We are going to take questions at the end, and actually I even welcome you to type in questions during the presentation. I'll try to pause a couple times to answer questions. And you are hopefully here because you have already attended the webinar Brand New to Seesaw Part 1. So this is really the follow-up to that webinar. We're really going to continue the conversation of getting started with Seesaw if you are really truly brand new to it and you want to kind of know some tips and tricks and know the ins and outs before you get started in your classroom. So if you were in our Brand New to Seesaw 1 webinar yesterday, we were really interactive and participating as a student. So today I'm also going to encourage you to have a second device handy. However, that is mostly so that you can play along on your personal device as a teacher. So I'm going to demonstrate a lot of things. So if at the same time you're creating your Seesaw class and kind of walking through the same steps on your own device as I'm modeling, you can go ahead and do that. So I just welcome that if you have a second device ready. So again, let's get started. This is Brand New to Seesaw Part 2. So the plan really for this session is we are going to focus on the teacher view of Seesaw. We're going to talk about literally how to create your class. We are going to go into class settings. We are going to talk about inviting families, implementing Seesaw with students, planning your next steps, and then of course we're going to have time for questions as well. So as you maybe already know me, I'm Angela, and I've taught kindergarten for 15 years in a classroom that had 5 shared iPads. Really focused on purpose and intent and creativity when we were using technology in the class. And now I work full-time for Seesaw, helping everyone get started on this journey. So today we're actually going to start from the very beginning as a teacher. So I just changed screens and I am going to app.seesaw.me. So if you have a second device and you want to do this because you don't have a teacher account yet, you can literally walk through the steps with me from creating an account to creating a class. We're going to do this really quickly so you can play along with us. If you already have your teacher account set up on your second device, you could actually get signed into your own Seesaw class and kind of follow along with me as well if you want to, interact in your own class while I am demonstrating. So again, if I'm brand new, I'm just going to click I'm a teacher. And because in this webinar am going to pretend that I am brand new and don't have an account, I'm just going to go to create account. So I am filling in all this information, and you will do the same using, your email address and password. Keep in mind that when you're creating a Seesaw account, you determine what you want your password to be. So welcome to Seesaw. So again, I am on a MacBook right now creating this, so I am going to app.seesaw.me. This just gives you a little, again, foundation of what Seesaw is, what we're all about here. And we are going to go right into creating our class flow here. So I'm going to name this class, let's do a second grade class. So I always liked to do my name and then the grade level I teach, Mrs. Gadke's second grade, and then I always put the year in there as well. So I named it, and I have the grade level selected, so I'm going to do a green check. I'm going to be using a QR sign-in. That's the method that we recommend for students in pre-K all the way through 3rd grade because they can just scan that QR code. So now I can list all of my student names. I can type them in one at a time. I can also, handy if you don't know this, paste a list of student names in. So if you already have a class roster somewhere, go ahead and just click here and paste your names in. Keep in mind, you don't have to add all of your students right now. You can add more later. So let's just stick with those 3. So my class is created. Now this is a fun addition that has come out in the last couple weeks, is we actually have this checklist for you. So if I click view the full checklist, this is really support for you getting started. So you can watch how Seesaw works from real classrooms. You can print our Getting Started guide. We have a Seesaw 101 mini course that you can take. And it just walks you through all of these things to really guide you in getting started with Seesaw. So as you can see, when I created my class, QR code class, all of my students I added. Now if I created the class and I want to add more students to it, in the upper right, when I'm signing as a teacher, I'm going to click on this wrench, or some people call it a spanner if you're not in the United States. And then I can actually just scroll into my class settings, and I see here students, and I can click manage students. So at the bottom here, I can go ahead and type in more student names. I can do all sorts of things here in manage students, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So let's say I already have a Seesaw account. Some of you might already be in this position. If you want to create a new class, you just tap on the upper left and go to create a new class. So this time I'm going to create a class. Let's say I'm working with 5th grade, and I'm going to choose 5th grade, and I'm going to go to the green check. And again, Seesaw is going to automatically choose that your students are going to sign in with an email address to use Seesaw. Now, you could change that if you want. If you're thinking, nope, rather have them sign in with a QR code, you can select that. But we're going to go with this. Now, you'll notice that the class is completely ready for you. However, you don't have any students in it yet. So you'll just go to here, Connect Students. And what this is going to provide is the join code, the class code that your students will enter for just the very first time when they're joining as an email student. So the directions for your students are right here. Students will, super simple, just 5 quick steps. They'll just go to the Seesaw app or website, choose I'm a student, choose email or Google account. If they've never, ever, ever created a Seesaw account, they would create a new account, or they could sign into an existing account, and then they just type the code in. So that, of course, is really kind of the password to let them into your Seesaw class. After they're joined, they never have to use that again. So that is just for the very first time of initially joining the class. So I'm going to X out of that right now because I'm not actually going to have students join. So while we are here, so I've just created 2 classes relatively quickly. If I go into the upper left, I can easily toggle as a teacher between any class that I'm a teacher in. You can have up to 10 different Seesaw classes in free Seesaw. There are more classes available if you're using Seesaw for schools or Seesaw Plus. So let's stick in our 2nd grade class for now, because what I want to do next is just show you a little bit more. We didn't have a chance to talk about this in Brand New to Seesaw 1 that much, but when you get inside your class, you are going to notice these 4 tabs. So we're in right now the journal view. So that is going to show all of the work that's been added to your class just in one stream here, one feed. Then we have the inbox. The inbox is where you're going to see messages that are received or notifications about any activity in your class. That's where that's going to show up. We also have a tab for Skills View. Now, Skills View is a paid upgrade to Seesaw and allows you to really track progress towards student goals in real time using skills. And then we have Seesaw Blogs, the last tab here. And Seesaw Blogs are free, and you can set your blog up. It's really creating a public website on the internet to showcase student work from your Seesaw class. You can also password protect those blogs as well. So those are just a quick tour of the 4 tabs. The other thing I want you to know, which is kind of fun, is you can personalize the color of your class. So if I want to go, actually, let's start with the icon. So you see this MG above here, that's for Mrs. Gadke. But if I want to change that, I'm just going to click on that icon and let's say, nope, I'm going to have this instead. I could do that and then I'm good to go. Or if I go and click back to the icon, I could upload an image from my computer or wherever I have a cool image that I want to upload and add that as my class icon as well. The other thing that you can do up in the upper right, again, we mentioned this wrench quickly before, but this is really for going in to fix things in your class, the class settings. So if I click on that, let's talk a little bit about class settings and what you're going to find here. So in your class settings, if you're ever thinking, oh my gosh, I want to change this, I need to do this and not that, this is the place to go. This is where you're going to find all of that stuff. So in class settings, you'll see your class name. If you ever want to change that, just click on it and retype it. The grade level. Manage teachers is where you're going to go if you want to invite a co-teacher to your class. So you just type in their email and invite the co-teacher. This is, again, class theme and icon, which we've already changed. So let's talk a little bit about students. So the student section has tons of things that you're going to need to know about as well as when you get going. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the student sign-in mode. So if I click here, now this is kind of a little bit detailed information, but we created our first class as a class code shared devices. That means students will sign in scanning the QR code. I could also change that to one-to-one devices if we have one-to-one devices in my classroom. I can also change that to email or Google sign-in. So those are the 3 sign-in options, and you can change that, you know, if you're starting with email or Google and you think, oh my gosh, this was a nightmare, this is not working, you can always revert back to a different sign-in mode. Managed students is where you are always going to go for things like adding students, or if you click on a specific student, this is where you're going to be able to change their icon if you want to go in and change what their icon is. You'll also see if they have any family or parents connected. That's in managed students. And then this section, student likes and comments. This is where you determine, you know, what do you want your class set up to be like? Do you want this all turned off? And then you want to turn it on as you build your digital citizenship skills. It all is up to you if students are able to like and comment on other student work. As we continue on here, students can see each other's work. So this is automatically toggled on. Now, as a teacher, when I was in my kindergarten classroom, that was always on. It was never an issue. We were good with that. Students, you know, added their work. They would peruse other students' work to give feedback. If you turn that off, just know that students aren't going to see anyone else's work. So think about that. And if you are if you're setting up your class as a QR sign-in class in shared devices, if you turn that off, they actually can't even see their own work. They can only add content to Seesaw. All right, so new items require approval. We always keep that on. Of course, you could turn that off if you wanted to. And enable item editing. I want to call this one out in particular because you want to turn that on if you want students to be able to copy or edit anything that you add to Seesaw. So that's one that kind of tricks new people as they get going. So kind of keep that in mind. Other things in class settings, enabling family access, your class blog, folders, skills, all sorts of other things that we'll talk about in further webinars. So I think we cruised through that. Now what we're going to do is we've talked about setting up your class. We have talked about setting up the QR class and an email Google sign-in class. Calendar view, I'll talk about that in just a moment. We talked about class settings. So again, I really encourage you to think about your purpose as you go through those class settings. If you want it to be a really collaborative space, things like that. So think about that. So we walk through class settings. Let's talk about the families. So my first reaction when I started using Seesaw is I was terrified to invite families because we were doing amazing things in my classroom with Seesaw, and I was like, this is great. I am in my happy little Seesaw world. I'm learning so much from my students. Why would I ever invite families? It's going to get complicated. It's going to be high maintenance and all this. I had all these nightmares. And the opposite proved to be true. So I share this story about a student that was really excited about this tangram project we did, went home, was talking about it, and the families could view that in Seesaw, and they actually recreated tangrams at their house and, you know, solved this, you know, really tricky challenge that I had set out for them. So really inviting families was literally one of the best decisions I had made when using Seesaw. In fact, the next year when I started using Seesaw, I had families connected even before the first day of school because I wanted that conversation around learning to start right off the bat in my classroom. So I highly encourage you to invite families. It is super easy to do, and I'm actually going to demonstrate in a moment here. But all you'll do is when you're signed in as a teacher, you just tap that invite families button, and then you will get a box that actually asks you to enable family access. You say, yep, I'm going to turn that on, and then Seesaw will actually give you two options. You can print parent invites, or you can also email families. So let me show you this because I think sometimes when you see the actual flow, it makes a little bit more sense. So let's do this live in the class here, even though this is, you know, a fake class. So I'm going to go to invite families. I'm going to turn on family access, and I'm going to do the paper invites. Now this is a great feature that we just actually added within the last week. We now have the invites in all of these different languages. So if you have families that you are trying to connect that speak a language other than English, you can choose one of these languages and the invite will be translated and ready in that language. So if I go to print paper invites, Seesaw is generating a unique invitation for every single child in my classroom. So there's some directions for you, but you'll see here, this invite is for Karina. It tells the families what they're going to do. This QR code is specific to that child. It is only the password and access for that child's family to connect to their Seesaw journal. They don't get to see anyone else's work, they only see their own child's work. So you'll see here I have my other students listed. So when you send these invites home, you're going to want to ensure that, you know, obviously the correct child is getting the invitation. The other option, as I mentioned, is you can view this email and then copy this email and paste it into any email, you know, service you use, and then send that to your families, and they can connect as well that way. So super easy, takes about 2 minutes. You don't have to type in family email addresses or have any of that ready, which I loved. Just really, really quick and easy. I'm going to pause for a moment and look at questions or ask for questions. If you have any questions that you want to know about, go ahead and type them in the question box. We'll pause here for a second before we go into getting started and implementing with students. So Sherry wants to know, is Seesaw FERPA compliant? Absolutely, Sherry. So I would highly recommend that you go to our website. We have a whole privacy center that's at web.seesaw.me/privacy, and we talk all about our privacy principles in plain terms. So we are FERPA and COPA compliant. All the things you can read about here, and we are happy to answer any of those questions. Krista wants to know, she's saying, I set up my classroom as one-to-one device, but I just changed it now to shared device because I only have 5 iPads. Do I need to reset the student QR code? Good question, Krista. I think that would be a yes. So basically, I'm not actually sure on that, so thanks for trying to stump me. I love that. But I think if you change the sign-in mode, I would, well, I'm not sure. You're going to have to see. So if you tap I'm a student and sign in, you're going to quickly find out if it's giving you access to the class. I'm going to say yes, you will need to print a new class sign-in poster. That's my final answer. All right, next question. Are there any tips or tricks specific to the type of device, iPads versus tablets, iOS versus Android, etc.? Okay, so my basic answer for that is, I'm wondering if you're asking about differences. The differences right now, Android does not have Seesaw 5.0 yet, so in terms of having the inbox or messaging, that hasn't been built yet. You can't add text labels to Android yet either. And iOS is our only platform where you can draw and record voice at the same time. So those are the brief differences. Janelle wants to know, I have shared our Seesaw class account with my team to post. Do they need to sign in using my email or password? So Janelle, you can add them as a co-teacher to your class, so that might be the best way if you want them adding content as a student. Maureen wants to know, I know you briefly mentioned this, can you show me how to do this? I teach 21 sections of K through 2. Teachers already have their classes set up. Can I be a co-teacher with each one? How many co-teachers can there be per classroom? Woohoo, Maureen, I love that you are going to be seesawing so much here. So again, you can be a co-teacher in you can have up to 10 classrooms in free Seesaw. So what you're going to have that classroom teacher do is you're going to have them go into their class settings, manage teacher, and send you an invite to be a co-teacher. That's going to get you into 10 classes with free Seesaw. In the other classes that maybe you are not able to be a co-teacher in, they can actually print their class code and share that with you in terms of students being able to add content there as well. So think about that. Let's see, Sherry wants to know, do you think the free version is sufficient or is paid better? Well, Sherry, I have to say, if you are just starting with Seesaw, you are going to be completely amazed with all of the amazing things that you can do within the free version. You will find as you get going and realize all the amazing things that you can do with Seesaw, you'll probably want to, have some of the features like skills view when you're thinking about assessments and students' portfolios traveling from year to year, which is part of Seesaw for Schools. So we're going to jump back into questions here in a little bit. We're going to keep cruising and then come back to questions. Our Getting Started guides, it says coming soon, but guess what? They are all ready for you. So these Getting Started guides are found at ideas.seesaw.me. And they have a teacher checklist, a student challenge, which are literally mini lessons that you can follow to get started with Seesaw with your students. So they're kind of fun activities. If you're working with littles, they really, really model each step. So these student challenges, and it says, again, coming soon, but they are available right now at ideas.seesaw.me. And of course, we start with setting a purpose. So why are you using portfolios? Why are you using Seesaw? We go through, building student ownership in your classroom, and again, lots of activities to get you going. You'll also find in those student challenges task cards. So these task cards are simple tasks that are super easy to follow that you can print out and have available for you or your students. So we really encourage you to think about what you're already doing in your class and see how Seesaw can enhance that. So for example, you're doing writer's workshop in your class. Students can take a photo of their writing and then read their writing aloud. That's just an easy example. Another reminder, I always like to remind people at every opportunity, don't share your class QR code. This is something that is your password basically to your classroom. So when you hang this poster up in your classroom, if you are using this sign-in mode, Don't post it on social media. Don't get super excited that you're, starting Seesaw and they're scanning the QR code for the first time. Don't take a picture of that. And I actually, in my own classroom, put a Post-it note over the QR code just so I wouldn't make sure not to inadvertently capture it in a picture. We have tons of resources for you at ideas.seesaw.me to help promote reflection with your students. So we call for younger students, we talk about wow work. That gets them thinking about what are the types of things that we are adding to Seesaw. I also encourage teachers to really sketch out those Seesaw opportunities. So if you are planning your lessons each week, I always thought to myself, what can Seesaw help me with this week? So maybe we were giving a book talk. How can Seesaw be a part of that? Maybe I wanted to hear all of my students explain a math concept or problem. Seesaw is perfect for that. Maybe we were going to be working on the reading skill, comparing and contrasting. How could Seesaw play a part in that? So really think about the activities you are going to be doing and think about how Seesaw can help with what you're already planning to do. Instead of the other way around thinking, how could I possibly use Seesaw? Think about what you're already doing and start simple. We'll talk about this more in other webinars, but folders are a great way to organize work. So truly to have a portfolio, you want to have an ability for students to easily find work that they've done in the past and also be able to see their growth. So folders are a great way for that. Keep in mind too, as you get going with Seesaw, anything in any sort of creation you're making either with materials in your classroom or digital tools, if it can be saved as a photo, a video, a link, or a PDF, it can go into Seesaw. So here is not an exhaustive list. These are just some of the apps and websites that will just go right into the Seesaw for easy sharing and documentation. So if you're interested in really a comprehensive record of student learning, Seesaw for Schools is really what you're looking for in terms of portfolios, traveling with students, being able to assess progress towards standards and skills, and having a great admin dashboard. So there's more information on that on our website. So we're going to take some time to answer a couple more questions here before we go. So go ahead and type them in. I'll let you know too that tomorrow Seesaw Chat is one not to be missed. We're talking all about getting started with Seesaw with students. So I know there'll be all sorts of ideas shared there as well. All right, so any questions, go ahead and type those in to the question box right now. I'll also note that if you are on Facebook, we have a tremendous community on Seesaw Teachers. So it's really a space for teachers to connect and share and collaborate and say what's going well or what, oh my gosh, what did I mess up here? Go ahead and join that. Lots of great conversation and sharing there. All right, question coming in. Do you have any suggestions for hosting a parent workshop night using Seesaw? I feel as if I almost planted you in the audience to ask that question. We actually have a great website. We'll see if I can pull it up here. We have web.seesaw.me/families. So if you go to web.seesaw.me/families, we have a website already for you. So you can literally go to this website and play this video for them, showing, introducing to families. You will give a brief explanation of what Seesaw is, and then actually walk through the steps of getting them signed up. So if you are meeting with them face-to-face, you can have those QR code invites already ready for each specific student, and they could sign up on the spot right there. So this website is great for you, and thank you for asking that question because I probably wouldn't have shared that. Thanks everyone for joining us here today. If you have more questions, of course, you can reach out to us at any time. We are super happy to help you get started with Seesaw and excited to see what your students are creating in their digital portfolios. So you're going to get a survey after this webinar, and please fill it out. We love to hear your feedback and are curious to hear what else you'd like us to help you learn about in our next webinar. So thanks everyone for coming today.